What's poppin' YouTube? It's your boy Chef Zay and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been some time since we posted a video, but I figured Andrew Berry spoke today. I didn't listen to it live, so why not come here and react to it live? So that's what we're gonna do. He spoke for 20 minutes, it looks like, or no, it looks like maybe 15 minutes. So we're gonna just hop right into this and kind of just do like a little live reaction.
All right. How y'all doing? Um,
Andrew Berry
all right. So
press
for the past several
conference, if
weeks,
I can
we've really
turn it up.
spent most of our
Hold
time
on.
just kind of examining our operation from A to Z.
Okay.
Everything from what we do schematically, what we're doing from a roster perspective,
I missed the beginning. Hold on.
operation from A to Z. Um, All right. So for the past several weeks, we've really spent most of our time just kind of examining our operation from A to Z. Everything from what we do schematically, what we're doing from a roster perspective, and everything that we're doing operationally to provide resources and support our players. So we're pretty excited to get to this point in Indianapolis, where it's really our first look with the draft class. Guys that we've been scouting and trying to get to know over the past 2 years. We get to spend some time face to face and get to know them more intimately. So it's always a really exciting time for us, on the college scouting side. And then it's also been really neat over the past several weeks just to integrate Ken and our new offensive coaches, see that staff come together.
Oops. My bad. Dang, Zay, what are you doing? My bad.
Years, we get to spend some time face to face and get to know them more intimately. So it's always a really exciting time for us, on the college scouting side. And then it's also been really neat over the past several weeks just to integrate Ken and our new offensive coaches, see that staff come together, and the work that they've done, really early in this offseason has been excellent. So we come in, looking really with a mind for improvement. That really has to be our focus every season, regardless of how we end,
Sticking to the script. I
because
like
it's a
it.
really competitive league, and we know our other 31 competitors are doing the exact same thing. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Same thing you said last year. I can't even hear the question. What's up, Levi? Appreciate
Do I
you,
seem
bro.
not cold to you? I'm kidding.
I didn't hear the
I'm
question.
kidding. I'm
So
kidding. I can't control the professional reputation other than, in my role, I believe in doing everything that's in the best interest of the organization. And in my role, at times, that does lead to very difficult decisions, particularly from a roster standpoint. But for us, like, the human element really is first and forefront, both in terms of how we treat our players, how we treat our coaches. That doesn't mean that you won't have difficult conversations or have to make some difficult judgments. But at the end of the day, we are dealing with human beings, and that'll always be first and foremost.
love hearing that. I know I hate that, Levi. Like apparently I'm guessing he asked questions about the cuttings of and like I'm guessing it had to do something with that because it's good to know if they're gonna if he's keeping it real with us, then David Njoku's fine. I mean, or Nick Chubb's not going anywhere. If we're dealing with human beings, if that's number one, we should have nothing to worry about. Nick Chubb will be fine.
Yeah, it's a good question, Tony, and I understand that Nick is a
Here we go.
popular discussion point. I met when I said about him at the end of the season. Any conversations that we have with him or his reps, honestly, will stay between will stay between us. If anything were to change with the status, you guys would be the first to know when that does happen.
As far as his progress, how much do you, I mean, you have any update on where he is in that recovery?
Yeah, Chris, he's done a great job. Yeah, you guys know Nick. He works his tail off. He does everything in his power to make sure that he can recover as quickly as possible. It still is very early, and we're 6 months away from training camp. So to say anything more definitively than I did at the in the middle of January, it would probably be inaccurate.
Sick question. Another one we can't hear.
Yeah, Mary Kay, that is accurate. Deshaun will begin throwing, next month. He's worked his tail off in terms of his rehab and recovery. He's in a really good place. We're excited, when the spring hits and we can get him back on the field. But he's making really good progress, and we're really excited to see that continue.
Last year you told me age is not a guardrail. but in the last 3 years, we have half the number of underclassmen.
Was
During
that
the
on this
draft.
interview,
How does
Levi?
that affect the draft for you, and does that change the value of some of the draft picks, especially later in the draft?
Not necessarily. I think the way that we look at any prospect's profile is really as a combination of a number of different factors. So we don't really go into looking as a vacuum. So like, let's take age specifically. It's not like, okay, hey, if you're, you know, X years old, you're off the board, or we're not going to consider you. It really, we do try and take each player individually and consider all the circumstances, risk factors, things that make that prospect unique, and ultimately place a value on that individual from there. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. No update there.
No update on what? Great question. This is pointless.
So good question, Scott. I think where the salary cap landed, that was in the range of our projections. I can't say that we had the number pinpointed. I wouldn't say that it has a fundamental impact in terms of the, in terms of our
Salary cap question.
planning. But obviously, there are more available dollars across the league, so that could impact markets accordingly as you think about free agency and extensions.
I'm liking what I'm hearing so far. Nothing out of the ordinary. Sticking to the script.
Honestly, we just look at it historically in the sense of each position has maybe what we would call a different aging curve. And then even within the position, the style, there may be a subset of aging curves based on the style of player or the specific risk factors that they have in their career. So there's not necessarily a blanket formula for deciding when receivers may decrease their production as they go further in their career. But we do try and take like a approach with different cohorts of likely profiled individuals.
Was that a draft question or was that a?
I'm going to give you the same response I give every year on the draft class. There are good players across all rounds, across all positions.
I like Andrew Berry, man. I love Andrew Berry, and I don't like Andrew. I love Andrew Berry.
As a general manager, I wouldn't say necessarily a book that necessarily played into my philosophy as a general manager. What I would point out, probably just in terms of my personal life and professional career.
Wait a minute. Did they just ask him about a book if he read about being a general manager? Hold on. We got to see if we can hear this question. He's like, look at his face. Look at his face. He's like, hold on. Yeah, you can't hear it.
As a general manager,
he's like, what the? It's like, what the are we talking about here? What the kind of question is this? Are you kidding me? That's what he's thinking right now. Like, what are we talking about here? There's so many football questions we could be asking.
I wouldn't say necessarily a book that necessarily played into my philosophy as a general manager. What I would point out, probably just in terms of my personal life and professional career, there's a book called Ordering Your Private World by Gordon MacDonald. It's actually something my pastor recommended to me a couple of years ago, and it really totally changed my approach in terms of balancing the personal and professional constraints or weights that come on trying to be a general manager, trying to be a good husband, be a good father, and all those things. That really had a huge impact on my life.
Joe Flacco question.
Yeah, you know what? Something that Kevin
he asked. He talked about going 11-5 and the impact, and then moving on from AVP. So let's hear it.
Has addressed previously in other press conferences. I really don't have much more to say than that.
Wait, what did he say? Wait. Hold on. He addressed this in other press conference. Am I missing something? Or did he say Kevin addressed it?
I don't have much more to say. Yeah, you know what? Something that Kevin has addressed previously in other press conferences. I really don't have much more to say than that.
Okay. Oh, I remember. Yeah. I mean, I know why. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I saw that. I did see that. They're going back to West V.
No, I actually think that's a one-off. I think as you all get to know Quantez throughout the spring, you'll realize that his path and his story was pretty unique. And I would say that that young man, in terms of everything that he overcame and managed over the last 4 or 5 years, has been nothing short of outstanding. So even if he ends up not being a Cleveland Brown, he's one of those guys that you just kind of root for and want to see him have all the success in the world when he gets in the NFL.
Great question. Offensive tackle question. Will they all be ready?
Probably too early to say on April 15th. We do anticipate them being ready for the season, Tony. Like they're all recovered. They all have different injuries, so different time horizons for their recovery. But all three of them have been working hard. All three of them are progressing as appropriate, and we do anticipate having them available to us throughout the season.
As crazy as it sounds, um, I think you move on from Jack Conklin. I think you keep Jed. I think you pick up his option this year. You give him a prove it year because again, this is Andrew Berry. That's Andrew Berry's first pick he had in the first round. So you got to understand that he's also you got to put yourself in Andrew Berry's shoes, and we've known that he doesn't like to get rid of his picks. If you are drafted by Andrew Berry, you're gonna get your shot. And I think Jedrick Wills, it's getting injured and having your ability to play getting taken away from you um does a lot for people at sometimes, and maybe that's what he needed to get that extra motor to dig deep down, because we know how talented Jedrick Wills is, and to see Dewan Jones get the praise that he got this past year, maybe it's the kick in the butt that he needs to get to the next level and ultimately get that next contract that he's searching for. So I think the odd man out has to be Jack Conklin. You rock with Dewan Jones and you pick up your fifth year with Andrew, with Jed, and you go to the draft and maybe you strike and find some gold later in the draft again this year for the left tackle position.
Do you mind repeating your question? I didn't quite hear you. Yeah, so we were pleased with how the running game turned out throughout the year. Obviously, Nick's 1 in a million, and maybe
Exactly, and that's really what it boils down
1
to.
in a billion actually.
Jed plays
so
left.
we're not going to get the consistent explosive runs that you get with the best back in football, but we also do firmly believe that the run game is predominantly predicated on the strength of the offensive line and then the actual scheme. Obviously, when you have a difference maker like Nick and someone who can create at the level that he can truly elevate that area of the game. But we did have to learn to run without him, and we were able to do it effectively enough. But obviously, Nick is a difference maker.
Nick's not going anywhere, guys. I'm so confident in that. Nick's not going anywhere.
Do you encourage him to? Yeah. So good question, Mary Kay. We really just look at it. What's the best thing for the team, and how we think about roles from that perspective. Kevin will have a good beat on that. Ultimately, that will be his decision. But
I wish I knew what the question
we
was.
really will feel good whichever way it lands.
Damn, I wish I knew what the question was.
I'm afraid to answer that question either way, Tony. I mean, you know me, I can't keep money in my pocket. So we'll see how it goes over the next couple of weeks. I can't predict that right now. Yeah, we were really excited about Ken. Ken, smart, former high-level quarterback in college, NFL quarterback, played in a number of different leagues, a number of different systems, and then actually transitioned into the non-playing side as a pro scout before working with Cam as his quarterback coach. Obviously, the work that he did with Josh in Buffalo was outstanding. Coordinated a top 5 offense over 2 seasons. In Buffalo, and so what the allure to Ken was his varied experience. In a number of different offenses, working with different styles of quarterbacks, and then ultimately just his work sample, as a coordinator. We thought he fit us, in our players. We love his expertise in, the spread and RPO game and drop back world as well.
I told you, I knew it. they didn't throw it out because there was people talking about it, and I remember it vividly when they talked about Ken Dorsey coming in and the comparisons between Cam Newton, Deshaun Watson, Josh Allen. Is Deshaun, are you going to take out the RPO? Like it was a topic of discussion, I remember. And I'm like, you're crazy if you think that Ken Dorsey's not going to utilize the RPO, especially when Deshaun Watson has came out time and time again and put his foot down multiple times and said he's not changing the way he plays. He's going to run it. The RPO is happening, and it's going to be a beautiful sight to see because I guarantee you Deshaun Watson is going to encourage heavy RPO, and Ken Dorsey's going to get the most out of it.
And we think that he's a fantastic addition to the staff. Let me go Ashley first. I'll come back to you, Tony. Yeah. So I think our interview process is very thorough, and that's not just for Ken or the offensive coordinator position. That's for any employee that we hire. That could be, our head of equipment. That was me when I was, interviewing for the general manager position, and largely because if you just maybe step back for a second. All right, like if you have a multi-billion-dollar organization and you're hiring like a CEO position or a COO position or a department head, think about like the time and effort that would take to go into vetting candidates that would perform that function in your organization, and that's really how we think about it. With our organization, with the Browns. So Ken's right. He went through a battery of different items, and he came outstanding, and we're really excited about him. It's a good question, Tony. I think that number one, I would say about this, I always think it's maybe a little bit short-sighted for people to judge an individual off of their, one of their weaker moments, a moment of emotion. Ken is uber competitive. You should ask the Buffalo guys. He's like urban legend when it comes to pick up hoops in terms of how competitive he is.
He fits
but
right
like
in.
we have no concerns about him, being able to, manage the players, manage the coaches, manage them.
You know what Kevin Stefanski does really well? Kevin Stefanski knows how to put the right people around him. That's his ex, like that's his I don't know if that's his best quality, but it's one of his best qualities. Because what was the main thing? Like there was always things that we talked about when it comes to Kevin Stefanski and what we would like different. And the big thing that we harped on year in and year out where we finally saw growth in it was his emotion. And what does he do? Last year, he goes out and gets one of the most emotional leaders you can find in the defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz, who comes in and basically puts swag into the entire offense, into the entire defense, into the entire organization, just by putting in Jim Schwartz. And then what do? You change yourself along the way and you adapt and you gravitate to these players with the energy and with that emotion that you've grown into. And then what do the year after that? You go out and you sign a guy who carries every bit of emotion that Browns fans have been banging on the table for as your offensive coordinator, basically taking off all of the pressure and all of the areas and the weaknesses that he has. He's went out and catered it to him. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. Not now we can take the focus and all of the emotion and all of the stuff that we worried about is out the door because we've seen Kevin Stefanski change. And then you bring in a guy on offense who the microscope is more likely going to be on with Ken Dorsey because I believe he's going to have a little bit more of a say than people might think, than especially the one AVP has had. And you don't have to have your emotion anymore. Now you can focus on the task at hand. You can be your offensive play caller, and the emotion is going to come from your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator. It's brilliant. It is freaking brilliant.
Himself. I love having competitive coaches. I love having competitive players, and he's really fit in really well with us.
He's brilliant.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the first part of your question. Uh-huh.
this year. And how do you balance like not living in the fears of we had all these injuries and also transition to the class ahead?
Talking about injuries.
Um, you don't have to worry about us living in our fears. We don't really have. I mean, that injuries are part of the game, so that really won't change our functioning. Obviously, we it's something that we've looked at pretty intently over the last couple of weeks because of the volume of injuries that we've had, and making sure we're doing everything in our power to maximize player availability. But in terms of like being worried about that, or it's football. Yeah.
Two more, we're gonna wrap. Special teams this year, Ken Dorsey on offense. What is it like for you to have to be the GM with so many changes to important parts?
These are changes to be better.
I think the only constant in the NFL is change, realistically, whether you're successful or unsuccessful. I think that the way we look at it is, we love having, you know, uh, stability, and I love working with Kevin on a consistent basis. But that won't always mean continuity. Just like we talked about earlier, over the past couple of weeks, our mind is towards improvement, and sometimes that can lead to change. And so that'll really be our mindset every year as we go into the offseason. What are the things that we can do, add, subtract, change that will allow us ultimately to reach a Super Bowl? It's been pretty cool. Honestly, it's been really neat. I'm super proud of him. I know I'm biased, but I think he's really good. And he's a pretty fast learner, pretty good looking too. That type of thing. But he loves it in Philly. He's learning from the best GM of the sport, the best front office in the sport, and I'm really pleased to see his progress so far. So,
Thank you.
all right, thank you guys.
All right. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary there. I mean, is saying exactly what he said the last year, and I love it. And he's stuck true at it. They're not content, and they're always going to do everything they can in their power to get better at certain positions. And I think there's two positions of need, or two positions that I think there should be a main focus this offseason. And I think Andrew Berry is going to do that. I think number one is receiver, and I think number two is linebacker. I also believe that he will figure out the pass rushing situation, whether Zadarius comes back or they move on from Zadarius. Um, and I think the big thing that people seem to forget with Andrew Berry is that when it comes to drafting, he's done most of his work later in the drafts, and he's hit on a lot of later picks. He's finally starting to get some of these upper echelon picks, and I say that I say that because we know we don't have first round picks for a couple more years, but he's starting to get some second rounders, a couple more second rounders, some thirds. He'll have a lot of fourths and fifths. And we've seen Andrew Berry thrive in that third to sixth round range. And if you can continue to find gems like that, that's what makes a team whole. That's what makes the good teams really, really good, is hitting on those later in the draft picks, because those aren't guys with high expectations. Those aren't guys that you think are going to come in and change your offense or defense by plugging them and playing. But when you have injury after injury and you're facing 10 plus 11 injuries, season ending injuries, and you have all these guys that you can plug into because you drafted so well and you've brought in free agents to fill in for when the players do go down, that's a testament to Andrew Berry in the front office and the scouting department. Like, they brought these guys in here to fill in. So I have no, like, when it comes to drafting, I can't wait to see what he does with the second round pick, because if there is a receiver of some caliber there, I think he is going to jump the gun on that. I wouldn't be surprised if a receiver falls. Maybe they even go up and go get one. That's just my personal opinion, because I do think that they are doing everything in their power to cater this offense and this team to Deshaun Watson. And you already know what you got in Amari Cooper, and if you can find a way to retain him, you already got David Njoku under contract. It seems to me that Nick Chubb is going to stay whole. If you can find a way to get one of these young players in the draft that can come in and make a difference maker, and they fall to the second round, they can get to the second round. Don't be surprised if Andrew Berry goes up and makes a jump on it, because I think he understands the assignment. And like he says every year, they're going to do everything they can to improve this team. And there is not many areas that you're going to look into in the second and third round and be like, man, how are we going to improve our team? What gives our option, or our what draft pick gives our best option to enhance this team? The only answer is receiver. I mean, that's number one. If you're doing everything in your power to cater it to Deshaun Watson, you're going to go get him another weapon, period. So that's going to do it for the reaction video. I hope I don't even know what I'm going where. I hope you guys have a great day. That's where I was going with that. I appreciate you, Levi, for tuning in and commenting with your boy. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. All right. Peace.